Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to your Hog Hoops Report. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Kamiko. Kevin, let's jump right into it. Big weekend of football, home opener here, but that means basketball had some recruits out here. Who was in town? That is important.
5 big recruits. It starts with 2024, class of 2024, Jalen Shelley, national top 35 guy, high-level 4-star, 6'8 combo forward out of Link Academy is where he's going to play his senior season by way of Frisco, Texas. So another DFW guy. We had him on a Zoom interview earlier in the week, Evan. Courtney and I did. And it was about 20 minutes long. We talked a lot about his recruitment and his journey from playing football to basketball. He's got that brother who's a quarterback from Missouri State last year and gave Arkansas a scare when he was on it, when Jalen Shelley was on an unofficial visit a year ago. But this official visit started Friday. But during our interview, he basically hinted at a potential commitment coming up to Arkansas because he spoke about being committed to Arkansas, not as a matter of if, but of when. So I thought that was interesting. The official visit wrapped up after having breakfast with Arkansas coaches this morning. He did arrive Friday afternoon. He did attend Razorback basketball practice in the morning on Saturday before going to the football game. Arkansas wins 28-6 over Kent State. He and the other recruits were there, but Jalen Shelley's a guy that has already visited Louisville. He's talked about maybe visiting Colorado and Ohio State, but also based on the strength of what he told Courtney and I and how well I'm hearing this visit went, not only from Jalen, who got with me as soon as he was finished with it, talked about the fast pace at practice, how that is going to help with conditioning. It would be good for him. Talked about that great atmosphere for a second time in a Razorback football game, over 73,000 fans for that season opener or home opener, excuse me. But he talked about those things with me. I've got that out in an article on Hogville right now. But I think this visit from both sides, I'm hearing it went really, really well. And now it's just a matter of wait and see. Are we on commitment watch? Is he going to take these other visits, which he did say he was looking at doing? So we just got to see on that. But I think Arkansas right now, based on what he said and based on what I'm getting from both sides of it, could be in the driver's seat. We'll see how that plays out. But he was the only official visitor this weekend, Evan. Again, class of 2024. The other 4 visitors were highly regarded guys in the class of 2025. Malachi Marino, a 6'11 forward center. Malachi Marino rated top 50 in the country when you look around at the various services. And when you're talking 6'11, top 50 rated guy, you got to feel lucky to get him on campus. Now, he's set up to take a lot more unofficial visits over the next several weeks, including in his own backyard, Kentucky, the Wildcats at some point. But he did kind of get things started this weekend at Arkansas. He's a native of Georgetown, Kentucky, so right down the street from Lexington. But Arkansas was glad to have him on campus. He attended practice and went to the football game, and so that was one of the 2025 visitors. Jay Sean Hayes, a 6'6 guard out of Whitehall, in-state player, about 50 minutes down the road from here in Central Arkansas from Little Rock, but a big guard at Whitehall. Recently, just a month or two ago, that he picked up that Hog offer. But again, a big guard that you can run the offense through him. He initiates the offense over there at Whitehall. He's a really good talent when you start talking about a big frame at 6'6 and has skill and understanding of the game, going into his junior season at Whitehall. So he attended, he was really impressed with the practice. He also got to attend the game and was impressed with that atmosphere. And then you also had a couple more visitors from that class of 2025. Bryce Hurd, a 6'5", 6'6 wing. That's basically, he's from Chicago, Illinois. He had been at Montverde Academy, the national, one of the top programs in high school basketball when you look at independent hoops, Montverde Academy in Florida. But he's back. He's transferring back in the state of Illinois for this upcoming season. But again, class of 2025, unofficial visit for him. And then another in-state player who attended Arkansas's season opener in Little Rock last week in the win over Western Carolina. So back-to-back games for him. He was not able to attend practice, but Terrion Burgess, class of 2025, 6'9 combo forward out of Benton here in Central Arkansas, 17U Arkansas Hawks, the Adidas program that's 3SSB program that's based here out of Little Rock. But Burgess, back-to-back football games. He's been on a lot of unofficial visits to Arkansas, by the way, in the last year or so. attending some basketball games as well. That's the plan moving forward for Burgess. He's going to hit some more football games, certainly in basketball season. But all these players also did the photo shoots, getting in the Razorback uniforms, posing with Muss. Burgess got to do that as well. So those are your four class of 2025 unofficial visitors. We mentioned Shelley on that big official visit, but there's more news in Arkansas recruiting because a couple of things developed here today. Amir Ali, a player that Arkansas in that 2024 class has been recruiting for a while, a 6'8" wing that's been playing at IMG Academy. He released his top 5 schools today. He's down to 5: Arkansas, Kentucky, Alabama, Kansas, and Arizona State. And so when I look at that list, it makes sense why his dad, Muhammad Ali, that name sounds familiar, spelled differently on the first name,
Mhm.
has been telling me for a while that his son's going to take an official visit to Arkansas at some point. Circled back with him today, and he says, yeah, very soon, probably October, looking at setting up a visit date. Said that he's going to visit all 5 of these schools on his finals list. I asked him, does he plan to sign early? My guess, he probably will get around to that, but at this point, they said they're going to evaluate those things, make that determination a bit later. Another thing is, we've said he's played at IMG Academy. That's true. He is making a switch to another school, but that announcement's expected to come out this week, his dad told me. So we still put him as IMG Academy because that was his last stop before we learned the new one. So keep an eye on Amir Ali, another top player, formerly the #1 player in class of 2024, Nasir Nas Cunningham, a 6'7" wing that's been playing at Southern Cal, or just committed to play at Southern California Academy, another independent school in California. He was formerly the #1 player in class 2024, 5-star. He's now ranked 30th when you look at the composite. So number 30, a high-level 4-star. But Arkansas coaches, I confirmed this earlier, had a Zoom meeting with him last week. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. Now, Arkansas's got more visitors coming in, by the way, this coming weekend, September 16th, for the BYU game. At the top of that list is, again, another class of 2024 guy, a guy that's had an Arkansas offer for quite a while, Isaiah Elohim, 6'5" wing, Sierra Canyon, big time school. We keep talking about these independent schools. He's had that official visit set up for a while. He's had an Arkansas visit set up for a while. He's also got visits planned to USC and Villanova and Providence. That'll be an official visit when we look at class of 2024 again. And then 2026, Arkansas offer Jacob Lanier, 6'6" guard at Maumelle, right here in Central Arkansas, will be on an unofficial visit for that game. So that's a lot of recruiting news, not only with the big visits this weekend, Evan, but when we just look down the road a little bit, potential visits coming up.
Absolutely. And we always talk about how important it is to keep your in-state talent in-state. That's one of the biggest things. So let's look. A lot of things are happening in-state, specifically here in Northwest Arkansas. The big thing recently this week has been the SEC schedule announcement, and specifically on the announcement are the dates of which teams are playing where. We talked about it earlier this week on, one of our Pig Trail Nation reports. But Kevin, what have you seen about this schedule? What really stands out to you?
Several things. Arkansas's got home and away against Kentucky for a second consecutive year. Only 3 times all time since Arkansas joined the league back in 91, 92. So you like to see that because those are arguably the 2 biggest brands in the league. Certainly historically they have been. You can make a case for that. We know Kentucky will for itself. But this is big. Last year, Arkansas goes on the road midway through league play, gets a big win, loses at home in March in the regular season finale against the Wildcats. You flip the script this year. Arkansas will actually host in the midpoint there in league play sometime in January. And then you're going to have Arkansas playing at Kentucky in Rupp Arena in one of those last 3 games of the regular season in March. I think it's the third to last game, March 2nd. Mm-hmm. So they kind of flip the script, but home and away there. You got home and away, as always, against A&M, who's going to be, finished second in the league last year, going to be strong again, projected to be one of the top teams in the league again. Arkansas opens at home against Auburn. That's another team that'll project top half of the league, arguably top 5. That's the home opener on January 6th. It's interesting because they've done away with the Big 12 SEC Challenge. That was always a late January date. When you looked ahead, it pushed the start of SEC play for the 10 SEC teams participating in that event into late December. But that's gone. And the ACC SEC Challenge, the first one ever, Arkansas hosts Duke. Everybody knows that in November. Mm-hmm. It allows the SEC to start for everybody in January. So Arkansas opens at home against Auburn January 6th. They go on the road for a couple of games. Then they're back home for a couple of games. There's a couple, they get Alabama on the road again. 5 of the last 7 matchups have been in Tuscaloosa. the idea that the SEC is looking to balance these schedules and kind of make it fair goes out the window. Arkansas does get Tennessee at home on Valentine's Day, February 14th. But again, a similar setup. Arkansas seemed like they couldn't stop playing in Knoxville year after year after year. They finally get a game at home against the Vols without a return game. To me, those games stand out. I think also when we look at that end in March when Arkansas goes on the road to Kentucky, they finish on the road against Bama in the last regular season game. That 3-game stretch looks pretty daunting, as does that Tennessee home game, because Arkansas, I think, has road games against Texas A&M and Mississippi State in that cluster of games. So those are what looked like to me. Those are kind of the things that stood out about league play, because we had known the matchups. Now we know the playing dates, which really plays into where are you at in your season? Where are you at in terms of how tough it is? How they're spreading your games out and what teams are you playing when. So I think it adds more information for us to sort of digest right now, even this far away from the start of the regular season. It's not that far off. Basically 2 months away, November 6th, so less than 2 months. But to know those games, to know all 13 non-conference games and those playing dates, the only thing left to learn now, Evan, is what times are these games going to be, and TV is going to dictate that. And we're going to learn all the TV designations. ESPN, SEC Network is going to have a huge chunk of that. Arkansas had a CBS game last year hosting Kentucky. We'll see if they get another CBS nationally televised game again this year.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Really quickly before we talk about Pro Hogs, practice is obviously ongoing, and with the team being home and the season about a month or so, a little over a month away, how has practice been going? Let's check in there quickly, and then we'll wrap with some Pro Hogs.
Well, I'm told. I mean, I've sources telling me that the staff has been able to implement more of what they want to do at both ends of the floor, strategy, all of it, much sooner with this group. 35 years of D1 experience. We know that. A lot of transfers, a lot of guys returning with experience. And so they're further along in terms of what they're able to install and not have to stop and keep teaching or go redo things. So they're at the same stage relative to the previous 4 years under Musman. They're further along in that regard. This past week, they had a real focus. It was a theme on working on breaking the press. So how the offense is going to, deal with breaking the press. They've got more than one way of doing that. That was sort of their thing. They worked on a lot of stuff, but that was something they worked on this past week. I mentioned those visitors that got to attend practice. They're getting to see some of this stuff. One thing we didn't talk about, because we didn't talk about practice last week, but I wrote about it in my Hog Hoops notebook last week. Makai Mitchell, the senior center, 6'10", who last year started all but one game. We know he did not practice at all in June or July limited practice. Since Arkansas's been back in September, he has returned to practice. Not only has he returned, he is full go. Trevor Brazile has ramped up his work. He's targeting a full go return very soon. And so Arkansas is starting to pick up some momentum in terms of guys being available in addition to who they had going through the limited stuff. And then probably the last thing just to talk about that, in about 2 weeks, they've been limited. It's still been that 4 hours per week. In roughly 2 weeks, they're going to be able to escalate that and do a lot more work on the court. The NCAA allows for that to go up, and that's about 2 weeks away. So that's kind of like you said, a brief, just sort of a brief and summary of what's been going on at practice in the past week or so.
Well, that's awesome. And we'll wrap up Pro Hogs. Bobby Portis and Team USA, they fell a couple days ago to Lithuania in the semis at the FIBA World Cup. And then earlier this morning, they fell against Canada in the bronze medal match. How did Bobby play? What was your assessment of his really overall tournament?
I thought Bobby played well. He didn't really get a lot of minutes. Today was the exception. He got the most minutes he got. When you go back and look at this entire group play, all these games, 8 games played in the World Cup, 20 minutes today, 14 points, 5 of 8 shooting from the field, made all 4 of his free throws, 6 rebounds, an assist, a steal. He had a box score +6. But Team USA had to scrap to get this game into overtime, lost by 9 points in OT to Canada. But Bobby Portis with a solid game. And I know fans are looking at this and thinking Team USA should always win, but this is one of the, if not the youngest Team USA group I've ever seen. It's close to it. Bobby was the elder statesman at 28. A lot of really good but very young players, not even comparable to what these other teams are putting together. And most of these other teams now have plenty of players that play in the NBA. They're just older and they have a lot more experience playing international basketball than this group does. It sounds like excuse making. I do think Bobby could have helped this team, but you mentioned it. Team USA started 4-0 in group play, lost to Lithuania to close out group play, defeated Italy in the quarterfinals of the actual tournament because Team USA had qualified for that, and then back-to-back losses to Germany in the semifinals, and then today against Canada. So losing 3 of their last 4 outings. You had some players that weren't available. Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr., the NBA Defensive Player of the Year, didn't play today. Paolo Banchero, who's going to be teammates with Anthony Black at Orlando, the NBA Rookie of the Year, was a DNP today. And those frontline pieces missing help explain Bobby's extra minutes. But I think Bobby should have been playing more. I don't know that the outcome would have been different, but he was mostly a positive in his minutes. And again, he ends up averaging about 8 points, shooting up nearly 65% from the field in this event, nearly 87% from the free throw line, 4.5 rebounds. When you consider he played less than 13 minutes per game, all that production is outstanding when you look at the per minutes, and he was certainly efficient.
Well, always fun to see a former Razorback wearing the red, white, and blue. Kevin, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much. As always, this has been your Hogs Hoop Report. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Camico. We'll see you next week.